Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Brunner, and I will talk about this WATERAGRI framework, which we developed during this project, really with the goal to navigate complex solutions for different stakeholders. And this was essentially developed by all WATERAGRI team and all involved stakeholders, but a few of you were involved a little bit more, especially Diego, Alba, and Tamara. Now, why a framework? Already when we started designing this project, we were a little bit overwhelmed ourselves with all the different ideas that came up and all the potential solutions, and it's very clear that one gets lost. And if you are already a little bit puzzled by all the things that are going on within the project team, how would it be for people outside? So we thought, well, we really need to come up with a way to efficiently communicate what we are doing. And this is really not straightforward. I mean, every day there are thousands of new peer-reviewed scientific publications, which are mainly read by the scientific community and which are rarely actually then used in practice. So this was the starting point. And in this context, very quickly, the question comes up, well, what are actually the solutions that are sustainable? If it is sustainable in one area, it doesn't mean at all that it is sustainable in another area. And also the other question that came up very quickly was, well, which technologies are feasible? It might be absolutely superb to put in a constructed wetland here in Finland, but perhaps not at all a good idea in Switzerland. So that was the starting point. And when we were developing this framework, there was really one question that we also kept in mind throughout the entire developing process, and this is, well, what do actually the different stakeholders need to get targeted answers? So based on this, we started to design the framework with the WATERAGRI partners. We were also testing this framework with our project stakeholders during meetings in the General Assembly, where we reviewed, for example, the general structure. We had several iterations on that. We also tested several aspects of this framework, for example, the simplified models. We will hear more about that later today. And one thing that really paid off was this co-design approach to really work together with stakeholders, make tests with them, get feedback, and try to improve what we actually are doing. Now, what is this framework? There are several components to this. The WATERAGRI website is essentially the starting point to this, where you can find all the information there. One very important pillar or component of this framework are so-called simplified models. It's very clear that we cannot do a PhD thesis for every potential project. There is just not enough time and the resources are not there. So the question is, how can we get to some useful answers on feasibility, applicability, and also usefulness with rapid approaches? And this is where these simplified models came in, which Alba developed. Then also these fact sheets that we developed are an important pillar. And finally, we also illustrate some of the more complex technologies which one cannot put into a simplified model, and you can find that all on the WATERAGRI website. Then, as I mentioned before, a key point is, well, which solutions are sustainable? And there we were looking at sustainability in terms of economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, but also social criteria. And for this, we again have a rapid assessment tool, which mainly Tamara developed. So you can go to your project area or where you want to implement your solution, and there are a whole bunch of environmental parameters that you put in, for example, the climate conditions, soil types, etc. Then there are also some of the economic aspects, including, for example, the farm size, the labor cost, etc. And then also some of the social aspects. And essentially, then you get a green, yellow, red flag for these different solutions, which will take into account the conditions that you have on your site. So with this, you already have a relatively good first starting point on what is actually a sustainable solution according to these three criteria. This is how it looks like. So you can essentially click on where you are, and you will have our different solutions that were developed in the project, for example, drainage systems, smart drainage systems, or enhanced water retainers, etc. And then you will get a first indicator on the sustainability of these solutions. Then, as I said, these simplified models are really a very important pillar because they allow, in principle, a shortcut. You can navigate or assess the applicability and the usefulness of a complicated solution in a very efficient way. What you can see here is, for example, nitrogen removal through a constructed wetland. So you can open the website, you can click on the project area or the region that you are interested in. There will be some basic data that are automatically compiled, for example, temperature and rainfall. And then you will need to provide some basic input, but really a minimal amount of input. And afterwards, you will get a graph showing essentially the key information. And together with the results of these simplified models, there are also these fact sheets which really help you to understand what does now these data mean and how can they be interpreted. And there is also a lot of background information provided for all these different solutions. Now, these simplified models have been developed for a range of the technologies. I just mentioned the nitrogen removal tool. I think Alba is going to talk about some other approaches later. Then there are other components of the framework as well. So one of them was already mentioned by Rolf. You can explore these solutions through a serious game, which is actually really, really cool. Because you can essentially get in touch with all the solutions that were developed, and you can also explore the trade-offs with easy and actually enjoyable and in a fun manner. Then we also implemented one other aspect to navigate through this framework, and this is targeted tours or targeted guides for different audience. So if you are a farmer, if you are a technical consultant, or if you are perhaps general public, well, your interests will be different, your priorities might be different, and you have something like a wizard that guides you through these different solutions, which are tailored to what we expect will be the most promising solutions for you. And then, of course, we have all these case studies that we have developed, and you can also download them and learn what we did in these different countries. And then finally, there is one more component to this framework. This is the illustration of really site-specific approaches. Not all the things we did are directly applicable all over the place. One example is here from Switzerland. This is a physics-based model which simulates surface water, groundwater interactions, the inflow or the infiltration dynamics for the unsaturated zone. And what was developed together with Forschungszentrum Jülich was a real-time data assimilation system. So there are continuously data streaming in from the sensors, and the model is continuously correcting itself with the goal to have the model as close as possible to reality, and with this being able to make robust short-term predictions. This is really something that was developed in a site-specific manner, and therefore we cannot have a simplified model for that. But still, perhaps someone gets inspiration from this and might be interested to implement and develop such a model for their own site. Now, already as a brief conclusion, I really think there is a gigantic gap between research and stakeholders, which is a shame. Most of the papers we write are not read by anyone but the researchers themselves, and as such essentially lost. So I think addressing this gap requires a lot of attention. And by addressing this gap, the involvement of the stakeholders was really absolutely essential. I think we learned a lot by just having feedback. This is not clear, or this can be improved. And without this input, I don't think we could have built a useful framework. Another thing that really worked very well, in my opinion, was this tailored communication to the different stakeholders. It really makes a difference if you are talking to someone who is, for example, providing loans to farms, or if you are talking to someone who is a consultant or a farmer. Now, perhaps generally on the framework is modular. It can be easily extended. We can implement new solutions here if you want. And also the structure of the framework, it can be very, very easily implemented into other projects. And as such, we hope it is useful and perhaps used outside of the WATERAGRI project. And with this, I'm already at the end. Perhaps before it's open to questions, I really want to thank Rolf and Sebastian for managing this project. It was a great, great pleasure working with you guys. Always nice seeing you. And I think you've done a great job. So thank you very much.
Questions? If not, thank you very much, Philip. And we will have a next guest. Yeah, we have a question. I'm sorry. Yeah, I will just provide a microphone.
Thank you. I'm not a part of the project, but I'm a part of Sustainability Week and the one who is organizing all the events this week. So, but I'm a teacher, and I would like to know about this game that you developed. Is it accessible for one to use in teaching?
Yeah.
And how do I get my hands on it?
You can go to the WATERAGRI website, and there you will have a section Explore Our Solutions Through, and then you can go, for example, to the serious game. And I mean, Ashna is sitting right in front of you. It's a board game.
She's an author of the game, so.
So the short answer is yes, you can download it, you can print it out, and the playing figures are standard playing figures you get in a game shop. Oh yeah, absolutely, yes.
Do you have another one? I'll be more careful this time. No, thank you very much, Philip.